you think? I say it as it is. If it changes, I'm always good with that. But Kiltz needs a lot of help.
We all need help.
We all need help. Well, we all need help. Absolutely. I don't know if you have you don't have moderating yet. I don't know if you could click on cues yet, but if you can't, you guide and direct me a little bit. If you see something there that that would be inspiring to talk about.
Okay.
And also, you can get a hold of Dr. Kiltz at drkiltz.com or Alia, ALIA, at drkiltz.com.
It's Alia here?
Alia's ill, so Kiltz is solo today. And but now I've got a friend in the house. We're good. We got I've got our Kiltz Mighty Tribe on. I've got our YouTube, Facebook, and I've got our Instagram. We don't have a giveaway today because Alia knows how to run the back end work here. So how are you doing this good day, Dr. Vasquez? Dr. Nelson?
Doing great. Had some technical difficulties before getting here, but
well, yeah, it's hard to get for. I got a question coming from Kiltz Mighty Tribe. What do carnivores take when sick with current virus going around that doesn't throw off diet? I had to take homeopathic meds while sick, so elderberry, colloidal silver, bone broth, nasal spray, fasting and sleep ended faster than others, but wondering now it's over. Triggered sugar cravings. What are your thoughts on that?
Since being carnivore, I've been sick with the virus a couple of times. I have just eaten what I normally eat. I think one time I fasted. I usually don't take any addition. I mean, years ago I would have taken a bunch of stuff, and I might take a vitamin C maybe. My kids, and anytime anyone is sick in the house, I got two adult kids still living in the house, and they go away and come back. One of them was in Tennessee, came back. Then he was in Kentucky, he came back. My daughter was in Maryland, came back. We treat them too well. And whenever they are a little bit germaphobes, both of them, so they start taking immediate. As a matter of fact, saying vitamin C for any simple.
Yeah, it seems like I know when I'm not feeling great, I'll often take extra vitamin C and vitamin D, and I do hot water with a little bit of lemon, and that seems to help a little bit, just to kind of break things up a little bit. But I think bone broth is really good. What's your thoughts on that?
Prior to being carnivore, I used to get very frequently allergies a couple of times a year that turn into sinus infections, and a few times turn into bronchitis or pneumonia. I had to take antibiotics once or twice a year on the regular. I don't think I've taken antibiotics in a couple of years now. And yeah.
Awesome. I'm not opposed to antibiotics, antifungal, antiviral personally. I think under some circumstances, you may need them. I mean, one of the major killers of all organisms in the universe is bacteria and viruses. And so I think one of the I mean, obviously you break a bone, although I was listening to something where someone was saying, you might just let it, rest and heal naturally. But we still have some value to modern standard medicine that I think that we can't kick away completely.
Yeah, at least twice in my life, I've been saved by antibiotics with like severe pneumonia that I should have been hospitalized, and literally antibiotics saved my life.
And I know I used to get terribly sick from strep as a kid, and without it, and I know, and that's what I think. If you notice the microbes work on the plants also, and they could take them down. Here's a question from Bridget Rao on Instagram. I'm hearing a lot about fiber being good for the diversity of our gut microbiome. Any thoughts on that, Dr. Nelson?
I don't know. I have always had some doubt. I mean, we've known that we have bacteria in our gut for a long time, and past many years it's been investigated a lot. There are more studies, suggestions that some bacteria are more important or better than others, but I think they all change according to whatever diet you're following. And I think they're going to follow whatever diet you're following. And I know there's some pretty good evidence, I guess, in some people studying this about certain bacteria being better. So I don't know. You keep repeating they are all trying to kill us, and
Isn't it true? I mean, bacteria and viruses are everywhere, so they're there.
Yeah.
Isn't it true we're maybe making a story up? I mean, why don't we just look at our skin and say, what's a good microbiome for your skin or your mouth or your ears? Ultimately, I think we've got it a little bit off. They're there, they're everywhere, and they're part of the thing that's trying to kill us and take us down. But if there are none there, something always fills a void, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. The other day, someone was asking you on a Q&A, don't remember if it was here and in a Healing Humanity room, or I don't know where it was, but someone was asking about urinary tract infections. And one of the things that everybody advises, including physicians, drink lots of fluids when you have a UTI to flush them out. If flushing them out with increased fluids was such a good treatment, we wouldn't need to give antibiotics sometimes, right?
Well, the bugs are it's sort of like washing a tree. These old trees and have the lichen and the full fungus growing on it. I mean, so you could just take a hose and wash it off, right? They're attached to it, right? It's kind of like washing your car with a hose. Cold water.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just wash my car with cold water without scrubbing it, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Let's see. Cynthia Smith on Kiltz Mighty Tribe. Since keto 4 years ago and carnivore 4 months, have not been sick one day at age 68. Knock on wood. Nice. I think fiber is deadly and dangerous for us personally. Why would you spend money on things that's just going to go right out the other end? It doesn't make any sense. And the bacteria, yeast, and viruses love it. Love it.
And the reasoning behind the fiber that some people give, it's because some of the bacteria may produce a little bit of butyrate, basically, uric acid. Well, have butter with,
Right. But I always, so the butyrate fuels the enterocytes. Isn't that the theory? Mm-hmm. But don't the enterocytes have blood flow?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't, if you don't eat for a week, what are the enterocytes living on?
Ketones from the other side, by the way.
Ketones from the other side. So,
beta hydroxybutyrate.
Let's see, blood work and potassium. Good morning, Nitsa Perez. This is on YouTube. Thank you. My question to you is: I had blood work and potassium is a little high, and her meat is high in potassium. Is this true? And can I still do carnivore? What are your thoughts?
The most common cause of now she doesn't say numbers, but the most common cause I have found for high potassium, do you know what it is? Lab ever usually,
Oh,
it's
well,
very
it's usually when they draw the blood, there's a little bit of
hemolysis.
hemolysis of the blood. I mean, it's likely error, right?
It's gonna shoot it up. So the first thing I do with high potassium, even when it's significantly high, just repeat the lab, because most of the time is, and then you can go search for other reasons if it's really high. I repeat it. Number one, when it's very significantly high in the office, we do an EKG because a high potassium may be
So
a really really high potassium may be dangerous. But
right. So get it checked right
nine
away.
times out of 10 or more frequently, it's hemolysis from the lab draw.
Well, metabolic dysfunction, and I'm beginning to rethink metabolic dysfunction as we're working on metabolic healing machine. The idea is that it's not just about ATP energy; it's about actually how the membrane nanomotors work to keep the sodium potassium pump properly functioning.
Mm-hmm.
So that potassium level may be related to metabolic dysfunction.
That is correct.
All right, that's good. Another question. Richard Hepburn on Kiltz Mighty Tribe. I had a wood chip lightly damage my eyeball. So let's just say there's a little scratch. Doctor wants to give me antibiotic cream. So I imagine when we get a cut, we've now opened up the barrier that protects us from those microbes. Would an antibiotic cream be unreasonable in someone who has a cut?
If it had happened to me, I would take it. Now, there's a difference between a corneal scratch and a scleral scratch. If you scratch the cornea, you want to avoid an infection by all means, because an infection is going to create a scar on the cornea that it can impair your eyesight. That is very critical. It's an emergency basically. And if it's a scleral scratch, on the white, there's still a higher risk of an infection. We do have bacteria everywhere, including over in our eyes. So you have more chances. Frequently after a scratch, you can get an infection. So I am not against medicine. I just in the appropriate times might be necessary.
But I believe that we're in an environment where a lot of metabolic dysfunction, diabetes, and the immune system is poorly set up to protect you. And I personally would rather get the antibiotics early than too late. And so I think these are some things that we all need to look at and be open to. Now, some people are like, I'm not ever touching that. That's okay. Your call on that. So that's kind of
that's why I said I would take it if some if I had a, because you have now an injury. You don't have a routine run of the mill, let's say a cold, which
and wood chips. I mean, however you got them in your eye, and they may come with bacteria, yeast, and viruses. That again, how do we?
Strange to you that piece of wood is not your usual bacteria in your skin and your eye. So
right.
That may cause an infection. So
I mean, pretty much that's why I go to the microbiome. We're studying something and then making inferences and theoretical ideas that often are not proven except to sell something. So I go by how I feel. I mean, I feel like drinking whiskey, wine, and beer and smoking marijuana every day. Is the way you feel really telling you the truth? And maybe the other question is, our feelings are driven in an environment. I mean, we didn't have the foods and the drinks and the smoking 50,000 years ago. Are we driven because and brainwashed a little bit?
we're exposed so much to it that sometimes we don't realize we didn't even maybe want that to begin with. But you go to the supermarket, I go straight to the meat aisle. I no longer go through all the aisles unless I'm looking for something specific.
All right. You'd be surprised how much sell without, or it's. I was looking up. I was actually doing some historical hunting on ultimately the civilization has been driven by dictatorship and a hierarchy of the masters and the masses, and so we're all really run by the master message rather than really understand individually how we need to control our lives, not allow those at the top to control our lives. Is that something we can control?
Control what they do,
No,
or
what we do rather than listening to the master dictators.
sorry.
We need a little disruption. Keep eating meat, Teddy. Other people, let's see, it's high according to what? Other people, if you have no negative symptoms, you don't need to fix anything. Keep eating the meat, right? And where are most of the pesticides made, by man or plants?
Oh, the most poisons are plant derived and sprayed on plants to keep the bugs out. Uh, the comment was regarding the potassium. Again,
You,
many lab errors or very borderline values of sodium, potassium, chloride, calcium, for example. There sometimes you have zero point 0.1 difference from outside the range. Most of those things are normal, just a little bit on the bell curve, a little bit outside the curve. So
all right, the prize is Dr. Nelson today. Awesome. Awesome. Let's see. We got Erica's in the house. Erica Arntz. Go to ericaarntz.com. Get yourself a personal custom made picture painting. She's amazing. We got a question. Let's see. Carnivore, healthy, keto, and fertility. 38-year young. Information much appreciated. Trying to conceive for 6 months and continue to getting healthier every month. Why is carnivore over and keto helpful for fertility and really all diseases, Dr. Nelson?
brings you back to the proper functioning. It to me is that, and this is your field, the fertility one, but it seems to optimize your system.
And ultimately our system being optimized is the critical part, but it reduces the toxins that basically plants make in order to control and kill us, I think.
Yeah,
Does that seem reasonable?
definitely.
That's a good one. Any other questions? Put a QQQ on it. That helps Kiltz find it.
There was a question by Teddy. No, that's not the one. I think we answered that one. By Phil.
You want
Hey,
to read
Brian,
it?
how do you feel about milk?
Well, Julio loves milk from a breast. That's my new grandbaby, my grandson. And ultimately, milk for a baby from a breast is what we should do between age 0 and some number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then after that, we should stick to meat off the bone. Right? Right? That's probably the best thing. But some of us still have presence of lactase and are able to break down the milk sugar proteins, and so we can tolerate it, but many people cannot. But
The
that's
number,
where. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, it's carnivore, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's animal based, but a lot of people do have sensitivities, and a lot of people cannot digest milk very well. We lose lactose as we grow, but if you can tolerate it, it doesn't affect you in any which way. Uh, don't it's okay. I stopped drinking milk many years ago. I still use cheese or heavy whipping cream if I'm drinking a hot beverage, but uh, we don't need it, and a lot of people don't tolerate it. If you're still dealing with diabetes, there's a lot more sugar in milk. Uh,
And probably that's one of the. I think milk, cheeses, yogurts, kefir, all those things. It really. What is the actual narrowest diet for humanity to thrive and survive?
Beef.
Eat the fatty meat, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. Geraldine Duenk on KMT asks, could butter be causing inflammation?
I guess it's possible because it's dairy. There's still proteins. It's mostly fat. Butter is mostly the butter fat, right? But it still has the dairy proteins. The way, if you think about the way you end up making butter, uh, I like to cook with clarified butter, which is merely heating it up, separating the proteins, taking the proteins off. I filter it through a couple of things, and I have the pure butter fat.
Yeah, I think if you're going to cook with it, the ghee is better. But I like to use real butter kind of after the steak is cooked. Put it on top, let it melt, add some Malden salt. I mean, that's one of the really the best things that we can do.
But
And
again, if it depends on whether you have sensitivities to.
and that may be the thing that the Lions diet made famous by Michaela Peterson. If you haven't seen Kiltz's interview with Michaela Peterson, you must. I'm going to be interviewing Tammy Peterson. She's going to be interviewing me, and I don't know if we have a date on Michaela yet, but ultimately the Lions diet or the Lions way that I like to use is fatty meat, salt, water, and I mean many animals go out of their way to lick rocks for salt. What? Why?
It's good for you.
It's good for you. That's it. That's it. And Raymond Nazon on SBG has always suggested to Kiltz that salt licking will help reduce your cravings when you're doing a fast. You want to get this Andy question?
Are there any studies I could refer to regarding how carnivore might help with the regenerations of nerves? I cannot direct you to any of them specifically. However, it seems to help any brain disorder, any nervous system disorders, neuropathy, and I'm not making any claims, but I can give you my own example. I had 4 different reasons for numbness and tingling in my feet, and 2 years ago I was almost in a wheelchair, falling, and needing either canes or electric mobility devices for movement, uh, and my sensation has improved tremendously. Not gone 100%. I'm not saying that has disappeared, but uh, it seems to improve
Yeah. I
nervous
just
function.
I just did a quick Google, and definitely keto. And if you look at Georgia Ede and look at Chris Palmer, we've got to get both of those on and do a dual interview. Would be really really great, because neurologic disorders, depression, Alzheimer's, dementia, MS, ALS, and if you look at Terry Wales, the Wales protocol, MS. I mean, they're all basically inflammatory disorders
Mhm.
secondary to exposure to plant antigens, chemicals, and sugars that may be the real.
And there are not too many carnivores exclusive studies, but
Yeah.
I'm sure they're coming. There are already a few things out there, and that it's going to take a while as far as how a study impacts, especially uh, providers' behavior.
But
We
isn't it?
might be 10, 20 years behind the ball sometimes.
Well, but this is where your story and healing humanity and we're all of us, Kiltz's Health, Healing Humanity, we're all together collecting the stories, which I mean, case reports. I mean, why in science and medicine have we given such low value to case reports?
Well, the criticism will always be, well, it's anecdotal. It's one person, N of one. And when you have at the highest level of evidence, you do have studies with tens of thousands of people, randomized, double blind, controlled. But you can, in many, particularly in diets, you cannot do those kinds of studies because they're not
Right.
going to be reliable, and we depend on epidemiological, which is not the best evidence, and down to the N of one study. Hey, this happened to me.
But isn't like the Bible, maybe what we're doing here between Healing Humanity and Kiltz Health and many others, we're actually compiling the case reports, which ultimately bring about the evidence. And maybe science has got us in trouble because we're like, no, 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 no. It's got to be from reputable place like Harvard, because I'm sorry, Dr. Kiltz and Dr. Nelson, it's not quite Harvard, and you can't trust that science. Isn't that what we often hear out there?
Yeah, and it is a frequent occurrence to have a patient come and say, "Well, my friend told me, or my neighbor told me, my cousin, my family member." So we do listen to other people about many things. So do this and do that,
But
and sometimes they're not. It's not bad advice because most of the time it's, you know, I'm telling you to do something I did because it worked for me, and it might be a valid suggestion. Sometimes, we walk into old wives' tales as well, but it's frequent. I mean, we listen to other people. This is how
well,
we live life. Do you like that restaurant? Then I'll go to that restaurant.
well, right. So maybe I think we as doctors have been misadvised because we're kind of taught to disregard people's comments about their friend, or I did this, or like I looked on the internet, and we're like, I'm sorry, that's bad advice.
Yeah.
And so, in fact, this is where naturopathic medicine maybe comes in, or homeopathic medicine. Homeopathic, we listen to the ancient stories of healing through our brothers and sisters and their brothers and sisters and their brothers and sisters. I mean, it's just a game change. And really what we're doing in modern medicine today is like, we're not waiting for a proper study. We're looking for a compilation of human stories that have created the Bibles of the world. And more people, I think, want to follow the Bibles than we want to follow the Merck manual. But if we don't follow the Merck,
my great companion during medical school, by the way, the Merck manual. I don't know. I guess it might still be sold, but I have a couple of 1980s editions.
oh, ancient. You got a question there?
I was C. That's all it says in the name, CE. And this is a question for you. Could you talk about carnivore/healthy keto and fertility? 38-year-old, and information is much appreciated. Did you answer this question before? Trying to conceive for 6 months and continues getting healthier every month.
Well, keto's good. Certainly keto, paleo keto are higher fat, lower carbohydrates. I like to use lower plants. If you're going to eat that way, cook the plants, add the fat, and protein is always about 20%. By the way, there is protein in plants and protein in meat. But by going carnivore, you eliminate the plant estrogens, progestins, testosterones, which may be anti-pregnancy. It's like taking a birth control pill. So I think carnivore is the best of the best. Keto certainly will help get you in the house and be better. And many people do get better on keto. Would you agree, Dr. Nelson?
Definitely. And if you're gonna eat plants, there are some plants that may be more antigenic to you than others. One of the pushbacks I always get when I'm trying to cut the carbs and suggest to patients to, decrease the grains or eliminate the grains. And I include grains and legumes there and all kinds of, but lentils are protein. And listen, I am a master cook of lentils and all kinds of beans. Okay. And in my previous life, I used to do them probably every day at home. But yes, there's about 20%, maybe, like you said, of lentils, for example. They have protein. They may not have the same bioavailability than the animal protein, number one. And it comes with the other 80% of what you have in lentils is pretty much carbs, carbohydrates, starch, which breaks into glucose. So if you're trying to reverse metabolic health, that's the wrong thing to eat. So I always tell them, well, it's, you like to drink this tea or coffee or this juice. Oh, by the way, I put some cyanide in there. The juice is good for you. It has a lot, but it has some cyanide. And I do like it to poison, because especially when you're metabolically sick, and I like to talk to that 90% of the population nowadays
that's metabolically ill,
then you cannot tolerate as much plants or sugars, carbohydrates, as the 10%, 7 to 10% that may be healthy. You're obviously tolerating whatever you're eating better than others. So my advice to that 7% is, well, continue doing what you're doing.
Although my concern is a lot of times the things are working silently under the surface, and then one day they surface as cancer, a stroke or sudden death. And
Yeah.
so ultimately, keto's okay. I mean, carnivore is really the top of the line, but I think some plants. But I guess the question is, what is a completely non-toxic plant? Do we know? We
Well,
don't.
I can eat I can eat bananas and avocados fine, by the way. I already know your daughter
You can't.
can't. And those are strange to me, strange allergies because I don't see them often, especially oh, I cannot have a banana. I do have a friend, by the way, he's vegetarian and uh, I've cooked lentils for him uh, as well. He can have bananas.
Well, but they
He'll
eat
die. He'll
them.
die with a banana.
Well, but they eat them and not knowing the damage that's being done under the surface. That's my concern. When my best friend Dave died of cancer at 52, he was a healthy dude. And suddenly he's got cancer and dies 6 months later. So that's where I believe we're missing it. It's subtle, it's silent until it's not. And what if cancer is just an allergy? Is that possible?
Food for thought.
Right?
Yeah.
Let's see. Brian DePorzio on Instagram commented, one of your videos, you said that high protein, high fat is dangerous. What does that mean? And how do I determine the amount of protein? Well, number one is, what does protein look like under a microscope? Can you tell me when you eat something, you know exactly how much protein's in it? We can't. And so you either eat plants or you eat animals. And so when we eat animals, we can see what fat looks like. Lean meat is not good for us. Let's just say lean meat is missing fat and plants are missing fat. And so ultimately, a high fat diet is what you want to eat. But knowing what fat looks like is kind of hard. When you cook a steak, what happens to the fat?
It renders some of it.
I mean, I don't know how much of it stays behind if you really cook it well. It melts away, right? And could heat damage the molecular structure of the proteins, the cells, the sugars, and the fats? Maybe.
It definitely does. I mean, that particularly the proteins.
And the sugars, the glycans, right? The glycobiome, I mean, is really one of the aspects that most of us don't even think about, or we didn't learn about it in undergrad or medical school, the glycobiome. Did we?
No.
No.
Michael Pregler says, before carnivore, my sinuses were always plugged, was a mouth breather, and after carnivore, not one problem.
I was the same. I used to take a ton of drugs for my gastrointestinal problems, my respiratory problems, and my migraine problems, and then my joint pain. When I went carnivore, after being paleo and keto, all gone, no drugs. I've been off coffee now for almost 2 years. I had a stint of 1 month last year, but isn't that kind of like radical?
Almost unbelievable with many things. And again, many of these things we don't have studies, but people get better from the allergies on carnivore. You know,
Well, how many people read, watch talk shows and they live their life on that, or the magazines at the checkout stand at the store? I mean, more people live off that than live off scientific journals.
definitely.
Would you get that question?
If the beef we eat has eaten grains, pesticides, wouldn't we ingest the same bad stuff they eat? Well, I don't know if we talk about all meats, for example, and chicken, pork, and other stuff that doesn't have the four chamber stomach. But ruminants definitely, they are like a carbon filter on your plumbing. They filter and process all this stuff, and the chances of us getting that from what they ate are minimized because that's the way their stomachs work.
I
So
mean,
not all the things that a cow eats will get to you in the same form. Uh, I don't know if it's the same for glyphosate specifically, which is ever present everywhere. Right? You know,
well, if it's everywhere, I mean, it's let's just eat fake meat. But what is someone putting in the industrial producers of fake meat? How do we know what they're putting in there? Do we really trust them?
just read the label and
But
see.
is a label trustworthy?
No, no, no. But even what they do put uh, on a fake meat, and I can show you perhaps. It's incredible. It's like the most ultra processed type of food there is,
So
with
it's
names
junk.
that you might have trouble pronouncing because you may not have seen them before. Most it's fake meat probably was one of the causes of my temporary condition a couple of years ago.
And so ultimately, I mean, we were trained in standard modern medicine. The question is, were we trained truth or scientific, theoretical science, which is sort of like marketing to sell something?
Yeah, as we get older, also, sometimes we become a little bit more skeptic about a study because we now have heard the story, and due to the internet communications, instant communications, and availability, accessibility to the different studies, and sometimes studies that were not published that now are coming out, or we realize that many studies are done, and if they don't achieve the desired res- result, they may never be published. So we don't know if this study that proved that sugar is good for you, sponsored by, X cane sugar industry, if it's reliable or not, right? So
Well, so ultimately, what we're doing here, many doctors say don't listen to the social media people, and they don't know what they're talking about. But in fact, they're quite amazing people on social media sharing ideas that are much more valuable than we got from Harrison's medical book text. Let's see. Jonathan Fay on KMT. I agree on cancer. Leave it alone. Change your diet. Change your health. My sick type 2 diabetes neuropathy and on metformin, gabapentin. Can't feel their feet. You eat salads, booze, processing foods, fiber grains, and cereals. Go to the doctor nonstop and say, right, how about your cholesterol? I said, it's great. We need good cholesterol. Does cholesterol cause disease?
no, the cholesterol story is trying to, even if it was related in any way to cardiovascular disease, the cholesterol is not a disease. We're trying to avoid the atherosclerosis, which, of course, many people, particularly in this forum, and most people that are here probably are not believers that cholesterol is a bad thing. And but the rest of the world thinks that if you have high cholesterol, you're gonna have a heart attack, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so ultimately, what is I mean, does your body make cyanide?
I believe small amounts. Yeah.
Right. But our body, I mean, plants make cyanide. I mean, do our body make heroin? I mean, we don't make
But by the way,
heroin.
I I I said that wrong. Some people don't realize that there is cyanide in some foods, and we ingest small amounts of cyanide when we eat, for example, almonds and also certain roots. Not that our body makes it.
Right. So ultimately, our body makes cholesterol, our body makes VLDL and LDL and all these things. It's not making them to harm us. But ultimately, if we look in medicine and science at the leading causes of human ill health, it's not because you consume cholesterol. It's because you consume a plant-based, low animal fat diet, and the microbes are deadly for us. Is that simple?
That is the simplest way of explaining it. Definitely.
And in general, the American College of OB/GYN recommends to eat a plant-based, low animal fat diet and drink red wine. So, are those the people we want to be listening to?
I
Doc,
wonder. I wonder how that guideline about a little bit of wine got in there
well,
to a group of obstetricians who are supposed to be guarding that baby that's forming.
and ultimately, it's time to make some changes in this world. But if we're waiting for the politicians to do it, or the doctors to do it, or the Pope, priest, president, the dictators, the kings and queens, you're going to be left out. What you really want to do is learn and change your life. And the last I learned, we're lions and not sheep.
Papa Carnivore. I sleep like a baby, huh?
Let's see. Edgar Casey, The Sleeping Prophet, highly recommended. Just 8 almonds a day to ward off cancer. Well, again, I loved Edgar Casey's ideas, but I'm not sure I'll take all of them personally. And maybe small amounts of cyanide can be helpful for those people who are eating a standard plant-based diet as a medicinal drug, but he also was mindset first. He focused on the mindset. All right, how are we doing time wise? Oh, it's 6:01. I am grateful for Dr. Nelson Vasquez for joining the team and being here with Kiltz in the morning and helping us all. We're working on individual and group coaching and more to share with our community of brothers and sisters.
Did you share the link for the Kiltz Mighty Tribe
I
membership? Is free.
Right, Kiltz Mighty Tribe is free. Go to drkiltz.com. Let me just throw it in this on and if you just go to drkiltz.com, you'll also see our meetups. Join KMT for free. We're there tonight at 5:30 p.m. I think Sean is with us tonight, Sean Baker, but I could be wrong. I heard a couple of other ideas, but I'll got to look back again and see. Ali is not well today, and I'm actually traveling today. No, tomorrow I'm traveling to Mexico City for a few days, and so we'll see what things look like. Any other closing comments, Dr. Nelson?
No, like, share, subscribe, make your own videos, your own lives, share your stories. Uh, that way we're going to have an impact much more than the Maha movement.
And we're all part of the making all of us healthy again, making all healthy again. That's kind of what I want to do in my life is if we can work on our brothers and sisters. Keto's good, carnivore's better, faith is always first, fasting I think is lasting, and occasionally have some of Kiltz's ice cream. All right. We'll see you guys tonight, 5:30 p.m. KMT. If you go to drkiltz.com, join Kiltz Mighty Tribe for free to get in the door. And we're working on our coaching and cheerleading and all those sort of things. I love you, brothers and sisters. Again, thank you so much for being here.
Have a good day.
Have a great, amazing day. Let me get you. God, I got it. Sometimes it's trying to prevent me from ending the stream.